once I started to reach the ground and I could see the green earth coming up, my parachute opened up. I knew right away that because my arms had limited mobility that I wasn't going to be able to control my parachute, especially once I tried to throw my arm up. There was absolutely nothing I can do about where my parachute went, and it was only because I had tried to throw an arm up that my parachute actually steered itself towards the concrete. It was probably no worse place that I could have ended up, considering there was 100 acres of green grass on the entire airport, but I guess that's just another bump in the road right now.
At what altitude did your emergency chute open up, and how fast do you think you were traveling when you made impact with the ground?
In order for an emergency parachute to open up, you have to be traveling at a speed of over 120 miles per hour, below the altitude or through the altitude between 1,000 and 750 feet. So it was pretty low. There was only an average of about between 5 or 6 seconds between the time the parachute opens up before you impact the earth. So
if you had to give a ballpark, how fast do you think you were traveling when you actually hit the ground with motionless limbs?
Without having any control of the parachute, forward speed, I have no idea or remembrance of how fast the winds were that day, but I would say I had to be traveling anywhere between in the roundabouts 30 miles an hour.
When you hit the ground.
I would have to say that I was traveling between 25 and 30 miles per hour when I hit the concrete of the runway.
What was your first thought when you realized you were on the ground and alive?
When I hit the ground, there was no consciousness after this whatsoever. Once the last visual I had was the concrete, and I don't remember anything after this. The very next thought I have are faint visuals of people in the hospital, mostly nightmarish thoughts, but the next clear thought, conscious clear thought, wasn't until 5 weeks after my accident.
And what was that thought?
The first clear conscious thought I had was after I had been off of medication for 2 days. I had been transported to another hospital, and it was of the doctor coming in to give me the results of what was actually wrong with me. This was the first time I really had any kind of clear understanding or consciousness enough to understand what was going on, but from what I remember, the doctor was standing at the end of my bed. They turned me on my side. The doctor did a couple of tests and said, "Mr. Colwell, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you will never walk again." That was the first most clear thought I had after hitting the ground, which was approximately 5 weeks later.
Do you think you cheated death?
Cheated death? No, I don't think I cheated death. This may sound funny, but I've been paralyzed for 5 years now, and the first 28 years of my life was much more paralyzing than this ever was.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about that then. I mean, what is life? How has it changed your life? The accident.
The ways the accident has changed my life is it's taken me away from society a little bit, a lot of it actually, and forced me to be more of an observer, to look at the world in different ways, to see my friends in different ways, also to maybe even observe the lifestyle I was living in different ways. I guess I could refine that a little bit by saying I could observe how much time I spent doing what I believed I truly loved to do, when in fact I could have been spending time maybe doing other things along with what I was doing. Doesn't mean I would change things, doesn't mean I would go back and do anything different, but I'm just learning now that in my life I've had an opportunity to observe my past life, and I think that's one of the biggest gains I've got from this life. And now I have the opportunity to focus more on helping others. Since my life keeps me immobile, I'm in the house most of the time. I do most of my communicating. I do most of my communicating through internet, through music, or through phone, or just through friends in general. by word of mouth. And I tend to spend most of my life now focusing on helping others live their lives versus not living my life. And that's basically where I'm at, and what I've learned from my life now is that life doesn't end because you lose a part of your body. It doesn't end because you get sick. It doesn't end because you can't get out of bed the same way as others, or you can't travel around like others can, or do things that others can't do. Life actually becomes just something different. It can actually become something. I've learned that now since my accident, my life has become something much more than it was before. Something more valuable that I can't really explain in the limited time that we have in this interview. But probably it's something for another story, I guess.
Do you think about the accident on a daily basis, or?
The amount of time I spend thinking about the accident is very, very little, actually. I usually don't think about it unless someone brings it up. I think in the very beginning, when I first got hurt, I probably thought of it a little bit then, because I wanted to understand more about what exactly happened. But the truth is, I never really spent any great deal of time thinking about it. I have to believe that while I was still falling through the sky, I had come to terms 100% and with complete. I was completely satisfied at where my life had gone up until I was falling through the air, paralyzed. I had no regrets, so therefore I really don't have much reason to think back on the accident too much, unless someone reminds me of it.
Were you Were you a speed junkie before before the accident?
In general, before my accident, I was very much a speed junkie, an adrenaline junkie for the most part. I was involved always within something that had to do with heights. I loved rock climbing, and snowboarding in the mountains were my two favorite things to do before skydiving. I also loved scuba diving, so things that weren't so extreme as well. Kayaking, rock climbing, mountain biking, anything that could cause a little bit of a thrill. Riding my motorcycle. Yeah, speed was definitely a part of my life.
And you fulfill that that void, that adrenaline or speed by doing your music or art, or how do you fill that void now, post accident?
Filling the void for the more thrilling adrenaline side of life doesn't really happen as much anymore.